biggest tournament since World Cup.
Everyone's been working their hardest towards this.
I think we're here to finish the story that we started last year.
We're fighting to show that we can go back to back.
It's pure skill at LAN.
Other teams should be scared of us because we have so much experience. We've probably been to the most LAN.
EU is by far the top region.
What do you want to do?
We want to put NA on the map.
نلعب لعبنا وإن شاء الله أنا عندي aim كويس وفاكس عندي mechanics.
Tem a melhor duo com uma sincronia muito boa.
We've got some of the best fighting ability in the world.
勝ちに来ました。
I think everyone should be scared.
Now's the time to make a name for ourselves.
For us, the way we're going to win this is just by playing like ourselves.
I really want to repeat winning on LAN.
It feels like a destiny for me to win.
We've done it at the Invitational. We're here to do it again.
This is just what I was meant to do.
It would mean everything winning.
Bora, bora, bora.
Let's go.
Polska górą!
Fortnite fans around the world, welcome to the FNCS Global Championship. We've been doing this for a while, and now here we are. Please give a warm welcome to Miniminer and, of course, Kelly Link, who will be your analyst for this bit. That's right, crowd. Y'all can go crazy. That's okay. Man, to think, guys, we've been talking about globals all year. You know, globals, globals is this far away. It's this far away. Now, here we are. How do you feel?
We made it. We made it. We're here finally. The whole year has been building up to this. Major 1, 2, 3, the last chance major, but finally we have made it. And in front of this amazing audience right here in Copenhagen, this is where it all goes down.
Honestly, Zeke, I've been waiting for this moment since the Invitational finished up last year. And like you said, this has been leading up to it since Majors 1, 2, and 3, all these teams moving through. And now we have a 3-day competition with $4 million on the line. I cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, I mean, if we thought the competition was kind of crazy before, this is just that very next step, right? Normally we have 2 days of competition. Now it's 3. There's an upper, a lower bracket. Only 5 games the first 2 days. I mean, pressure's on.
The pressure is on. I mean, the players will be feeling it. They'll say they weren't. They'll say, I got nerves of steel. Yeah, not nervous at all. They are. They're nervous. Definitely nervous. But I mean, how can't you be in this incredible arena in front of all these fans? This is something we haven't seen before. Of course, a single-day grand final, 6 games on Sunday, 5 games in the upper and the lower bracket. So I think it's going to be a little bit different here.
Yeah, I think that's something we haven't really seen before in Fortnite either, this upper and lower bracket. We're going to have 25 teams that we don't even get to see compete tomorrow as well. And also having it be 5 games and then the finals are only 6 games when we're used to a 12-game finals. It's going to be a bit unexpected, I think.
That is what we are here for. Now, how long are we here for? Let's take a look at that broadcast schedule. As we've kind of mentioned, today we will be here for 5 games. We got an upper bracket tomorrow, the lower bracket, and make sure you do not miss Sunday, the grand finals of the FNCS Global Championships. It's still so crazy to say those words out loud, but here we are. I mean, guys, what are your expectations coming into the weekend? We've talked about the difficulty, but what are your thoughts?
I'm expecting drama. I'm expecting chaos. I'm expecting excitement because if anything, if the Invitational is anything to go by, that was all 3 of those things. So, I mean, on a grander scale, bigger prize pool, bigger event across the whole year, it's going to be amazing.
I mean, when you only have like a region-locked tournament in the FNCS, there's a lot of respect for where teams are going to be dropping. But obviously, by having 6 regions dropping all into each other, there's going to be a bit of contestation, especially around that creaky compound area where I think there's 6 teams competing for all the loot over there. So it's going to be a bit chaotic at the start, I think.
I can't wait to get into all of that and more. But first, it's not just us calling all the action. Why don't we do a little tour of the arena? There's so many people that are all involved in making this happen. Why don't we give a warm welcome to your casters?
Thank you so much, Zeke. It's Monster D-Face here in the Best Taco, of course. The place is starting to fill up, and these are not jitters. It's excitement, as of course we're all here brought together for the upper bracket where the top 25 duos will be moving on.
I'm just so happy to be here. I mean, you can already feel that little bit of tension in the air, but the energy is so alive inside the venue, and knowing that we are going to be witnessing gameplay from some of the strongest 50 duos, essentially, from their respective regions, because of the fact it wasn't by any sort of circumstance or last-minute changes. No, Majors 1, 2, and 3. That's what dictated today's upper bracket.
That's right, and we've had so much time throughout the week to actually touch base with the players, and I must say, there isn't a shred of doubts. Every single opponent that or competitor I've talked to about their opponents have said they feel like they are pushing their way through the top 25. It really shows you how the utmost of confidence is just exuberating out of the players here to be. So as they start to take the stage later, I mean, there really are gonna be some true upsets, but I know who's really happy right now. It's Frankie down on the floor.
You're absolutely right. I am so excited to be here at the Royal Arena in Copenhagen, surrounded by so many fans who've turned out early on a Friday to support their favorite players. I've met Mr. Savage fans, I've met Thomas fans, I've met Queasy and Vino fans. Everyone here has got a favorite duo, and everyone here absolutely loves Fortnite. Earlier, I was talking to 20-year-old Charlie, who plays with her mum, not zero builds, because apparently her mum says zero builds is no fun. It's got to be about builds for her. I have to disagree. I have plenty of fun in zero builds, Charlie's mum. But an absolute bunch of legends, surrounded by legends here in the arena, and I cannot wait to see the support they're going to be giving the players all weekend. And speaking of players, they are nervously lining up behind the stage. They've had to split from their duo partner, that's the secret. You'll find out why later on as they walk onto the stage. And so it's almost like every man for himself, or it would be. But actually these players, they're so delighted to see each other in person. They're giving each other so much support, and that's all gonna change once they board the battle bus. Now, someone who's been giving me a lot of support and taught me so much about Fortnite in the last year is my friend Vivid, and he is over in the Creator Lounge.
Doing the tour around the arena. Of course, the fans are funneling in. The players are hiding out backstage, ready to jump in. But we also have more special people here at the Royal Arena. It's going to be creators from around the globe. Very, very excited to talk to them throughout the weekend, kind of get some of their insight, how they are feeling about the event, and check out all of the content that they will be producing as the show goes on. So I am currently over at the Creator Lounge, and this is where we'll be getting some exclusive talks with some of those creators. Now, as far as expectations are concerned for the weekend, I mean, I'm going to be looking towards the NA guys that are going to be competing, right? I am from NA myself, but there's been a lot of talks about some of the smaller regions showing up at the Global Championships. I mean, we got Brazil, Asia, Middle East, OCE here as well. Cannot wait to see how all of the action unfolds. Just 5 games to the upper bracket today. And as far as that goes, it's going to be very, very exciting. Kelly talked about it. It's a brand new format. Can't wait to see what the players do with it. But for now, we got to go back to the desk. It's going to be Zeke and the crew.
Thank you so much, guys. We are getting closer to kicking off the competition. But what is at stake here? Well, there's quite a bit of prize money.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
That's right.
Just a little bit.
Good amount. Let's have a look.
Just a little bit.
Take a look.
Of course, $1 million going to the duo that can walk away in that #1 spot on Sunday. But even just getting here will net you something.
Yeah, 75th place today will get, of course, $4,000 to split between the duo. I love how casually you mentioned, yeah, $1 million. $1 million first place. As you do, standard. That is an incredible sum of money. $500,000 for each of the winning duo. And of course, this is after Sunday's grand finals is where it's all going to go down. This is a huge prize pool, Kelly.
It's a huge prize pool, but also it's a huge difference between first and second place. We saw at the Invitational how close it was between Seti and Cammy and Queasy and Vino, how a quick decision changed their placement between first and second. And that today, this weekend, is going to be a $350,000 decision, as well as this incredible trophy that we're seeing right now.
Absolutely. Thanks. And big shout out to our friends over at Swarovski. I mean, it's like the Invitational trophy, but just that much crazier. Now, obviously, we have quite a bit of expectations, and I'm sure this crowd, viewers at home, all have their own. Is there people you guys have eyes on?
Lots and lots of people. Of course, we have so many duos to talk about, and there's plenty of duos that we have our eyes on to do well, of course, across this weekend. Of course, one of which, Zagu, one of the Asia players, of course, teamed up with Pepo. Exciting duo. I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, we have 50 teams to talk about, and we're going to be breaking them down even more. But just looking at some of the duos that we have right now, the names of like Cooper and Miro. We saw Phison and Kitos at the Invitational surprise all of us by getting a 5th place against some of the biggest names in the game.
I mean, just look at this. It's actually crazy to see this on the screen because these are some of the world's best players all in one lobby together. We're seeing so many massive names on the screen right there. Yomzo and Rise, of course, qualifying through to the upper bracket. A team that we're going to have our eyes on to take the championship home, potentially.
Just wild. 6 regions all coming together on a single stage.
So
there is going to be so much chaos because now you're thinking, okay, well, I'm in this region. I'm used to fighting players from this region. Just kidding. There's 5 other regions that I have to worry about and how they play in their region. Mad. Now, Kelly, you brought up a good point here. Duos that I wanted to kind of focus in on. We got to talk about Zagu. We got to talk about Pepoclip. We saw Zagu back at the Invitational, and man, they put on quite a bit of performance. So they're hoping to bring some of that experience to today.
Yeah, I mean, after game number 3 of day 1 of Invitational, Zagu and his duo back then, Mareem, they were actually in 2nd place. So a lot of teams, a lot of people would sort of see Asia as a smaller region and not put them in their top 3, but they have every reason to be in people's top 3. They're gonna come out strong, they're gonna come out aggressive, and they're gonna be feisty.
They're also going to be coming out of Eclipse State, one of the new POIs we're seeing this season. And let me tell you, this is an incredible POI, potentially unconned as well. Not only are they going to have the rifts that are near them, allowing them to rotate, but they're also going to have those 3 mythic podiums, kind of giving just a little bit more chance for that RNG of what mythic's going to be dropping there. Also, they had a great performance in Majors 1 and 2, getting that 1st place finish in Major 1, and then a 2nd place finish in Major 2.
Major 3, though, they actually split. They decided to play with different teams or different teammates. Didn't actually work out as well for them. So now they're back together. They're feeling good, and hopefully they'll get back to their winning ways.
That's right. We will definitely be focusing on them, but more duos to highlight across this entire lobby list of players. Let's take a look at Suns and Anon from OCE. What can you tell me about these guys?
These guys are the back-to-back Major 1 and Major 2 Grand Final winners. Coming from OCE, as you mentioned, they are a fantastic duo. They're one of only 3 duos that actually go back-to-back, winning each different major. So I'm excited to see what they can do today. A little stat from both of those winning majors. In all 24 games that they played of those Grand Finals, they only failed to pick up an elimination in 1 of those games. So expect some electric gameplay from them. Expect some aggression for sure.
I love that you're talking about aggression eliminations because I'm going to talk about placements now, because in Major 2, out of the 12 games they played, in 11 of them, they placed top 15, which is just unheard of. My only concern, though, is that they're landing naughty nets, which isn't the most beneficial POI. They also have the likes of Queasy and Vino landing just to the west of them, so that's going to be a little scary.
It's a difficult spot to get Storm Surge from. Naughty Nets has been traditionally one of those spots, particularly on OC. They don't have the practice on the global stage. I'm interested to see what they can bring to it today because they're going to have to pull out a few strategies.
For sure. Kelly, you said a duo, Queasy Veno. Why not talk about the other side of that coin?
Oh.
You know we have to talk about them. Cammy, Seti, right? Your Invitational winners. They went from winning the Invitational to not having the best start in Major number 1. But following, they really picked up the pace.
Yeah, I mean, we know this duo from this moment, isn't it, Kelly? What a moment this was. Invitational, Queasy and Veno contesting them at their drop spot, and we all know how this went.
I mean, knowing your POI and the ins and outs is so pivotal, and we see that in this moment at the Invitational, why that made such a difference, why Queasy and Vino didn't know that you couldn't build a wall there, and that's what separated them from success and failure. And I think they kind of got a little taste of their own medicine, because in Major 3, we saw them have a little, Major 1, they had a kind of a rough start, getting 23rd place right there. In Major 2, though, they got 5th place. And then in Major 3, getting 4th place, top 5 in 6 of the 12 games.
Yeah, and as you can see, they're landing at Frenzy Field today. The biggest question mark for this duo for this competition today is that they are actually contested, which is something we haven't seen from them since Major 1 this year. They didn't have a great major, as you said, Kelly, but for them, they've been practicing a lot off spawn at the moment, and even they've actually been practicing their drops in Duo Cash Cups at Kenjutsu Crossing.
Oh,
who lands at Kenjutsu Crossing? It's Queasy and Veno. Yeah, so I wonder why they could be practicing their drop at not their drop spot.
Probably no reason. There's probably no way that matters in any way, shape, or form. It's probably going to happen, at least we hope, even just a single time. Now, the beauty of being here in this setting is that we have the players standing by. We can actually talk with them. And who better to do that than none other than Frankie, who is standing by right here, right now, with none other than the man himself, Seti.
Yes, I am. I'm very excited. To be honest, I'm quite nervous, and he is cool as a cucumber because this man is no stranger to success at an international LAN. Seti, is this bringing back memories of the Invitational?
This is definitely bringing back many memories, and we're here to make some more.
Was that the best moment of your life, lifting the trophy in Rally?
Yeah, 100%, and I'm ready to make another one.
How do you top that, though?
I guess we'll have to see.
So tell me about this year, because it feels like you guys have been on an upwards trajectory and you've had to adapt your playstyle from just being low ground to sometimes actually challenging for high ground. What's that been like?
It's been great. It's been great adapting because now we can play low ground, mid ground, and high ground. So just great combination.
What about aggression? Because you're not necessarily a team that does go for eliminations. You do like to make the end game. Do you think that's going to be difficult for you to rack up those all-important points here?
I don't think it's going to be difficult at all. We're going to make end game. We're going to make some eliminations, win some games, and that's it.
Are there going to be any interesting off-spawn battles coming your way?
Oh yeah, obviously.
And what will happen if people do drop you?
Just be prepared.
I can't wait to see it. I imagine you and Cami will be incredibly prepared. Thank you so much, Seti. Polska Gorum.
Polska Gorum.
Thank you so much, Frankie. And of course, Seti, you can see the focus in his eyes. He is looking to prove something. Could they be the ones to get the back-to-back from Invitational all the way up to Global Champions?
I think if you ask a lot of people, they would say yes. I mean, the type of players that they are, the way that they are, their sort of mindset towards the game, very, very cool. You saw it in that interview. Very, very cool. Very, very calm and collected. It's a duo you got to look out for.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely. Well, let's keep this ball rolling because we know we want games. Let's talk about the format. What does this look like? So we kind of talked about it. We have an upper bracket, a lower bracket, but let's break that down. So today and tomorrow, we have 5 games lined up. Then the top 25 from today will go straight to day 3 in the grand finals. The players that in that bottom 25 will go to day number 2, where players from the last chance major are waiting. Then in day 2, that lower bracket, the top 25 from there, will move on to day number 3. That will give us the top 50 best duos from around the world.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very exciting. I mean, this is something that we haven't seen too much before. I think a lot of players might be thinking, oh, you know what? Day number 1, upper bracket is just a good sort of day to have an extra one in the bank, right? You might see day number 2 as kind of like a backup in case things don't go well on day 1, but no. You want to get rid of that mindset. Make sure you do it now. Make sure you're qualifying right here because you want to get it done early. You don't want to leave it till tomorrow if you can't.
Well, especially because all of these duos have been preparing for this day. In day 2, it's 25 new duos that they'll be facing against with drop spots that they aren't too sure of. So that is definitely going to throw a wrench in some things. And also, a lot of these duos are used to having a day 2 to kind of prepare and research, but they're not really getting a 12-game series here.
Yeah, and I like that you kind of talk about this day 2, 25 new teams. There's just so much to track of, especially when you have things like the points, right? We have 65 points for the Victory Royale. Every elimination is worth 4 points, and we cannot forget those all-important mid-match objective points.
Yeah, mid-match objectives obviously been recently introduced to the game. They already had a new dynamic to the game. Of course, we have the Forecast Towers worth 3 points, and of course, the Rift Island worth 15 points. It's an absolutely huge sum. A lot of players will actually sort of dictate their playstyle around those mid-match objectives, particularly with that island. We see teams going for that and making it almost their gameplay personality, going for that island every single game. And even the drop spot choice for the Forecast Towers, for some teams, that's absolutely vital.
Yeah, and it's not just the points they're going for. The Forecast Tower gives you forecast. It is an absolutely incredible thing to have in the game, knowing where every zone is going to be, getting those early rotations, putting yourself in a high advantage position and grabbing those Storm Surge tags. I can't wait to see how these teams utilize it.
I cannot wait. You guys have got me hyped. Now, of course, we're talking about what this looks like, these off-spawn fights. Well, let's hear from the players themselves. Check this out.
Being contested just means that at the spot you land, you have another team with you.
It's kind of like 50% chance like that you survive. You need to be lucky, get the right guns, get in the right position.
If you want to have good loot, you're going to have to fight for a spot.
Often it's seen to be a bad thing, but sometimes it can be good as well.
we're dropping on the racetrack. Currently, we're contested by Aegis and Canada. I wouldn't say that I'm scared of them. We've been playing against better players off spawn than them, for sure.
We're landing Pinkstood, so it's like in the middle of almost like all the good POIs. And we're contested by Ikran and Cold. And we're probably just gonna try eliminate them as fast as possible.
They're good fighters, but I think that me and Acorn are just better.
La verdad es que no tenemos ningún plan, solo que si ellos van a querer fightear, vamos a tener que terminar peleando y nosotros no tenemos miedo.
The main things I look for when landing a POI is how much metal it has. Wood and brick is everywhere around the map, but if you can get cap metal, you're already at an advantage.
If you don't get a gun instant, you have a really good chance of like getting out of the game really quick.
If you can't get a good drop spot, it just makes life 10 times harder for you. It's just one of the most important parts of the game.
If you're thinking of landing on us, good luck.
We've had teams contested, they got last place. They can try again.
If I eliminate Thomas and Malibu 6 games in a row, I'm 100% winning this tournament.
Everyone that contests us is going to get eliminated. They're finished. They're finished.
Well, this is kind of interesting because I've just heard you two talking about each other in the video that we recorded on Media Day. And Thomas, you said that you have faced off-spawn battles against better players than Canada before. Can you look him in the eyes now and just reiterate that statement, please?
I mean, most EU players, like, in the top level is better than NA players, so, I mean,
that's kind of true, but, like, you know me, like, I'm the FNCS winner, just won, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to see today, like, who's really the GOAT, you know what I'm saying?
And you also said, Canada, that if you win all the off-spawn battles today, you're taking that trophy. But I thought, after watching your Major 3 winners interview on FNCS, that you didn't care about winning here.
I mean, like, being contested, like, it sucks. Like, I was contested, like, FNCS Major 2, and, like, you can't really do anything about it. But, like, when I heard I was coming to Copenhagen, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm here to find a girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? The Danish girls are here, they're pretty beautiful, so.
Can I keep your eyes on the prize, though? Because there is a trophy out there. You're going to go and have a date with it in a moment. So you have a think about what really matters in life, and I'll give you a hint, it's Fortnite. And I'm going to come back to Thomas, because I want to know why you're so devoted to dropping at racetrack.
I mean, we've been landing there the entire year, so we wouldn't switch drop, like it would be dumb. We haven't practiced anything else, so yeah.
And what's happened when other people have tried to drop you there?
I mean, it's been ups and downs, but we're trying to like learn how to play it the best, but yeah.
You don't want to just learn how to play it the best, though. You want to play it the best, especially if this guy is coming at you all aggressive and American-like. What do you think you'll have to do, though, if the battles don't go your way? Are you going to agree to just split the POI, or is it just going to always be all-out aggression?
It's going to be 50-50 on the slope truck every game. So, I mean, Canada haven't touched the game for 4 days, so...
I played this morning for like 2-3 hours. I'm feeling good. My finger's looking good, so I'm looking good.
And just one more question. How long did you play this morning?
I didn't play this morning, but I played like all week, so yeah.
He's fresh, he's warmed up, and I'm excited. Let's head back to the desk.
Canada, always the jokester that he is. This is an off-spawn fight we will be seeing happen at the racetrack. Obviously, Canada, coming off a recent win, does hold the Axe of Champions, going up against Thomas HD, someone who has yet to get a win. What can we expect from this head-to-head fight?
This head-to-head is going to be very, very exciting. I mean, we've seen Malibuka and Thomas HD. They're actually contested in Major 2 by Tucson Putrick, and they actually still managed to get a 3rd place. They were kind of half-splitting the POI at that stage, so I think they might sort of do the same maybe if it's on day 2, but day 1, they still have tomorrow to go. I think it's going to be all out 50-50, as they mentioned. They've got to go for it.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a different story for Canada and Agers, who, when they were contested in Major 2, got 12th place, and then when they were unconned, of course, in Major 3, they walked away with their first FNCS win. And a lot of that was due to their loot pathing, being able to quickly loot up the entire racetrack, and then be able to rotate quickly for an early tower to get those surge tags. But I think there's a possibility to split racetrack. There's great metal and brick. It's splittable by the west and eastern side. You have the slurp truck on the west side, and then you have that forecast tower towards the eastern side. So, I mean, they just said it's a 50-50. I do think that once one of them sees how rough it's going to be for them on the drop, that they might try and split it.
I mean, I spoke to Malibuka yesterday. I had a little talk with him. I was like, mate, how you feeling about tomorrow? he said, it's duos. Anything can happen. We don't know what's going to go down. And I'm sure for a lot of fans in here, for a lot of fans are all over Denmark, they'll be feeling like this is Thomas's destiny, right? Hasn't won an FNCS yet. And what better place, what better time to do it than now?
And Thomas just is regarded as one of the best mechanical players in the world.
Yeah.
Teamed up with Malibuca, who's regarded as one of just the best players in the world. I cannot wait to see this duo go up against Kanata and Agers.
Let's keep this conversation going. We have to talk about more duos. Relentless Retreat, CalGamer up against King. Yes, it's that King, top 5 of the World Cup King, probably BR's best player or regarded the best player, that King.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is Relentless Retreat. Anything can go down, Kelly. This is where it all happens. We've seen different playstyles from these guys throughout this season. Of course, CalGamer seemingly getting it unconned in Middle East. Everyone in Middle East is just feeling like, you know what? Yeah, let's just let him have it. He's the king of this area. But King himself has been actually contested by another duo throughout all the Cash Cups, and they don't seem to be fighting. They seem to just sort of be splitting the POI a little bit. So I'm interested to see how this dynamic works between them both.
I like that you're talking about the dynamic differences that we see, because both of these duos here also have a lot of similarities. Both of them back-to-back champions in Major 2 and Major 3 for their respective regions. But I love that you talk about CalGamer and how respected he is, because he might be one of the most studious players that we have ever seen in Fortnite, comparable to players from just any region from around the world. And again, Relentless Retreat is a splittable POI,
Yeah.
but what I'm interested in seeing is that it takes about a minute to be able to get down into the vault for those mythic POIs, and whichever team is able to get down there first is probably going to have the upper hand.
And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I was actually speaking to King. Yes, I get to speak with all the players. You know, we all get on. But yeah, me and King, we were speaking out. We're actually watching them scrim, and they're actually trying to practice the quickest route to that mythic vault. It shows how much they're going to prioritize that. They're making sure they get there as quickly as possible, because the loot that's in there is absolutely valuable.
Well, you've heard our thoughts on it, but why don't we head on over to Frankie, who once again has a head-to-head for us. Take a look.
Thank you. Yes, I have been very fortunate to be joined by CalGamer, who is the king of the Middle Eastern region, but also King himself, one of our Argentine players who's representing Brazil. And both of these players have won 2 majors alone this year. We're also joined by Daniela, our fabulous translator. So CalGamer, I'd love to speak to you first. I know that you are someone who researches your opponents. Have you watched any of King's matches, and do you have any opinions on how he plays?
I haven't watched him that much, but I watched a little bit and I realized how he plays, and he's not very good. So that's why I'm there.
And why would you say you're a better player than King?
I mean, it's just the facts. You know, he's just not that good.
Are you going to put your money where your mouth is later, though? Because you are dropping at the same spot as him on Relentless Retreat.
Yes, I don't really want to talk too much. I mean, after a few hours, we're going to play and see what happens.
Shukran, okay. Well, I'll go and talk to King then while you get your thoughts in order, and we'll come over to Daniela as well. King, you are arguably the greatest player in the Brazilian region right now. Tell me why Relentless Retreat, though, is a spot that you're going to win when you drop on it against CalGamer later.
¿Cómo vas a hacer el drop spot ahí cuando vas a bajar del bus? ¿Cómo lo vas a... ¿Cuál es tu método?
La verdad es que no tenemos ningún método, solo que nosotros tenemos nuestra parte, que es la derecha del spot, así que nada, si ellos van a querer caer ahí, lo van a tener que disputar con nosotros, y nada, ojalá que ganen, que tengan suerte.
We don't have like a method that we're gonna do, but we're gonna attack from the right side, and we hope we're gonna win, and we will do because we are the best. Yeah.
CalGamer has given his opinion on you, but what's your opinion on CalGamer? Have you seen him play?
La verdad que sí, hemos visto varios games, pero la verdad que no me asusta, ya que bueno, yo estoy confiado junto con mi dúo. Y nada, si van a querer disputar la bóveda, podrían pelear tranquilos, que nada, los esperamos, no tengo miedo.
We are waiting for them. We see them playing, and they're not so good like they thought. And I'm sorry, it's Argentinian, so we talk too fast. So he will fight until the end.
I'm really looking forward to the fights. Hopefully the end will be in the aim game for both of these players rather than at the relentless retreat. Thank you so much, Glacias, Mitchell Glacias, and Shukran. Thank you so much for talking to me, Cal Gamer. We will see what happens between these two and their duo partners when they drop on Relentless Retreat in just a few short moments.
So they can't both be bad.
They just have no respect for each other, do they? Like, no, mate, you're not having it.
He's bad,
It's not happening.
he's bad. We're both bad. Of course, just some friendly trash talk, right? As we prepare for the global championship. That's kind of, I guess they're both in high spirits. That's kind of where you want to be, right?
I think they're just trying to get in each other's head, aren't they, really? That's all it is.
Yeah, sure.
Kel's like, I don't even want to, you know what, that's fine. Just
Yeah,
leave
that's
it
what
there.
that'll do.
That'll do. Guys, we actually have something very special lined up, and we have a remote interview with the man, the myth, the legend himself, my oldest friend in the world, Cypher BK. Cypher, I don't know if you can hear it, but the crowd is going absolutely ham right now. How you doing, man?
Yo, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here for the FNCS Global Championship, even though it's remote. I'm excited to watch a ton of Fortnite this weekend, and I am personally rooting for Clix and Epic Whale. I want to see Clix get his first FNCS championship.
That is amazing. Dude, how has it been? Like, obviously, you've been watching, right? We've seen all of these duos just kind of grow and evolve over the year. What are your expectations for the competition?
I mean, I want to see a repeat of what happened at the Invitational, just like a super intense, like first and second going head to head in the last match. I think we're going to see something, and we're going to see some early drop fights and whatnot. But yeah, I was there at the Invitational. It was just electric, and I'm hoping we see that again here in Copenhagen.
How crazy was it back in Invitational, right? Kind of the first time we'd had a LAN like that, and now we're back, but the stakes feel so much higher. You talked to a bunch of players. What were they kind of feeling at that time?
I mean, everyone is always a little nervous before the tournament, but I think once they're in the battle bus, like, it's game time, and the stakes are really high. I mean, this is like the biggest prize pool since World Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like $1 million for the first place duo. That's a life-changing amount of money. So I think it's gonna be intense. It's gonna be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cypher, for those of you or them out there that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Because I want everyone in the world to know about you.
I mean, I am a very big Fortnite fan. I've been playing it since the very beginning. I was honored to be among the Icon series last year, and it's just, I'm still loving this game, and I'm super excited to see what you guys have cooked up for the last couple of months of this year, because it's looking crazy.
That's awesome. Cypher, where can all these new fans find you?
Cypher PK on pretty much any platform.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it, and we hope you enjoy the competition.
Thanks, y'all. Good luck out there.
Going crazy. That's right. Y'all can go crazy for Cypher BK. He's a legend. Y'all, this crowd is the best crowd I think we have ever had.
Yep.
And that's great, because we're going to see next level Fortnite. I don't know that I'm like prepared for what we're going to see this weekend.
I mean, I know the crowd already. I've seen a lot of cheering so far. There's a group over there. I think they're from Gentle Mates from the French region. They've been really hyped, and you can see them over there. There we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, they're really, really hyped. I'm excited to see all the other regions that are taking part today. All the fans. I'm feeling excited.
Listen, I know that the fans in the audience are ready, but I want to know if the players are ready.
True. That's right. Well, we are not that far away, so you've gotten our thoughts. Why don't we get the thoughts of our casters as we draw ever closer to the competition?
Yeah, I must say, especially after watching the head-to-head interviews there, that I'm feeling so good, and I'm looking forward to, of course, the competition of the contention that we're going to see on the drops.
And what I love the most, too, is that it's one thing to know your drop spot, but for all of these representative regions, you have to keep in mind it's the international competition, it's the global championship. So just knowing your drop isn't good enough, because every region is going to have their own sort of flair for the competitive meta, and it's going to be a really interesting dynamic to see how some of these players choose to break into it, because even at the Invitational, where we last saw some international competition, one thing where I think some of the other regions in general might have struggled with was the surge strategy. So I want to see how well that's been wrapped up to be brought here today.
Well, we know a couple teams aren't going to have any surge issues. It's those that, of course, are competing against one another, especially Kanata. Let's just back up here and really touch base about the problems that he's going to face right now. Kanata and Agers are surely, two of NA's best, right? And they have a difficult task in front of them. Thomas HD, Malibuca, right? He was really honing in on the fact that he has been playing all weekend long, and he feels like Kanata's focus isn't quite there. Is that going to be the default in his playset?
And that's the false sense of security that Kanata's trying to implement into Thomas's brain right there. Because at the end of the day, Kanata is a competitor. I mean, he is one of the few players that we have here that's actually got some of the most FNCS appearances.
Well, you know what? We've had a long road to get here, and all of a sudden, we are closing in on it. So let's go ahead and dim the lights. Fortnite fam. A year-long competition has led us here to Copenhagen. These players have fought through the FNCS gauntlet, 3 FNCS majors, and a last chance major, all to battle it out here on this stage. These players have put everything into this competition. 6 regions, all going head-to-head to prove who's the best. But it's about so much more than just that. It's about holding the axe of champions high. It's about hoisting a championship trophy, banking their share of $4 million. But above all else, it's about a title that comes with the highest prestige, FNCS Global Champions. After this weekend, one duo will break through and stand undeniably above the rest. So get ready. This is the FNCS Global Championship.
Ready. The trophy is here. But you can't crown a champion if there are no contenders. Copenhagen Royal Arena, are you ready to meet the players? Let's bring them on.
Right now, and of course, most importantly, it's the battle that they had to fight through to be here, bullying their way through the Shockwave Hammer meta, one of the most destructive seasons.
They have to brace for chaos as these players now step into the most chaotic environment they have faced all year long. And with 196 total finals appearances spread amongst all of them, they are here to show exactly why they're the forerunners of their respective regions.
And you think about it, they had the first chances, the first opportunities put in front of them, and they did just that. They secured it, and here they are. Let's go, Copenhagen. Y'all went absolutely crazy for the players. That is what we are here for. We don't have this competition without them, so y'all definitely feel free to lose it when you guys see them come out on the stage. My gosh, that is just the qualifiers from Major number 1. There's so many big names. Thomas HD, though, Malabuka. That's we have eyes on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I heard a massive cheer.
Yeah.
And we're hearing it right now.
I wonder why.
I wonder who they're cheering for. Is it Thomas HD?
Yeah, I think
it might well be, because he is the Danish man himself. What a perfect player when you think about all of his attributes. So smart. His aim is next level. And of course, paired up with Malabuka. This is a dangerous duo. Only bad thing, contested today. But they have so much skill in this duo that they should be able to overcome the problem.
We've seen sometimes being contested can be a little bit beneficial.
Sure,
And we
sure.
saw them have an incredible performance in Major 1, getting second place and only losing by just a single point. They are the best team to have never won an FNCS, but I think that they may be changing that this weekend.
That would be so crazy, right? No FNCS title, but a global championship title? That would be next level. We talked about EU. How about we gone over to NA, Acorn, and Cold? I feel like so many players and fans alike talked about this duel when they won, saying this is probably one of the best duels in NA, period.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype around this duo when they performed in Major number 1, of course, coming out with a great performance. I like this duo. You saw combine a really, really big brain IGL in Acorn, and arguably one of the best fraggers in NA in Cold. This kid is crazy, and I'm expecting him to bring that dynamic. You can see them on the screen right now. They're looking happy, they're looking excited, and they should be, because they're a top team.
And we saw what Cold can do on a LAN setting at the Invitational, getting a 3rd place finish with his his old duo mate Scented. And I mean, their placements outside of Major 1 was 6 in both Major 2 and Major 3. So even when they're doing their worst, it is still so vastly better than most of the competition.
Now, of course, that was a look at just the qualified players for Major number 1. We have 2 more to go. So please give a warm welcome for your qualified players from Major number 2. The Kinetic Blade was the season. It was also the problem that they had to learn how to overcome, learn how to make theirs, and perform to the best of their capabilities, because my oh my, what a destructive time it was.
They really had to slice their way through the competition to qualify for Globals. But more impressive still is the sheer amount of experience that this particular group of contenders carries with them. Considering 18 out of 24 of them have played on a LAN stage here before.
Can you imagine having that experience, bundling it all up and then putting it out right here in front of you, where there is your chance to make the bulk of $4 million? We know who you're looking at. I know who I'm looking at. But most importantly, can they step up? Can they perform here now, as the times and options are limited? There's only 5 games. I mean, if that was it, right? If that was just the let's go, everyone's here, let's hit play, I believe that's a grand finals lobby. There's still more seats to be filled, but as we focus in on the qualifiers for Major number 2, Queasy, Benno. This stadium went crazy when they walked by that trophy. Some would say these are the villains of this arc, right? These are the guys that went up against Seti and Cammy and fell short. Now they want to come back. They want to come back even stronger than a year ago.
Yeah, definitely one of the best teams in EU. I think that's without doubt number 1, number 2, number 3, one of those 3, because these guys are absolutely incredible. We saw in Major number 2, 12 game grand finals, 6 victory royales. I don't understand how that's even possible. And then arguably the biggest upset when of course they didn't qualify to Major 3 grand finals. How does that affect their mentality going to this? Is this now a bit of a redemption for them? Not winning an Invitational, not making Major 3 grand finals. What a better time to do it.
Listen, the whole adage, you know, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or shame on you, or whatever. It may be something like that.
Not good at those.
They changed their drop spot at the Invitational, and it potentially cost them that first place spot. And then in Major 3, they changed their drop spot again and didn't even qual. So I think that they're going to be sticking to their guns and going Kenjutsu Crossing and potentially going to be coming out on top in day 1.
There are so many big names. We have to continue the conversation. Miro and Cooper now kind of focusing in on NA. Miro just ridiculously decorated.
Yeah, a really, really decorated player in the NA region, won so many FNCS titles, paired up with a less experienced player. And this is a really nice storyline because you have the experience of Miro. He's actually not IGLing this duo. It's usually Cooper that takes that role. And he's actually saying, you know what? I'll take the reins. I'll use your experience when it comes to fragging because Miro's just one of the best in the world at that. And of course, he can lead the way, lead the Tarps, and make sure they make their way to endgame. This is one of those duos that I'm really, really excited to see how they perform on LAN because both of them are very, very talented, but together, we're yet to see them in this stage.
No, but we did see them perform incredibly well in Major 2, getting a second place finish. And I think Rumble Ruins is a great POI for them, being in the center, being able to handle rotations, which seems to be a little bit of an issue for them in earlier seasons. So I'm excited to see Miro, obviously, as you were saying, an incredible player, a 5-time FNCS champ. However, most of those wins were with his old duo mate, Bugha.
Absolutely. Well, we have one group of players left, so Arena, welcome them. This is your qualified players from Major number 3. And as we all know, Fortnite is ever changing and evolving season to season. You never really know what you are going to get, but guess what? This team, these players had to go against the zero mobility when it was arguably so difficult.
And what they might have lacked in mobility, they certainly made up for as far as adaptability is concerned. Because having gone through every single iteration of competitive seasons, competitive metas, to find themselves here at the global stage, that is the embodiment of mental fortitude.
And really and truly, it's one of the hardest things to do, is when it's your last chances, when it's your last opportunities to punch your way straight through to the biggest opportunity of your career. And it's time to put up those numbers. Can you do it? Surely all of our Major 3 qualifiers had to play with that pressure. They had to play with that knowingly, you know, a looming pressure of, hey, I can only do this one more time.
And again, considering what's at stake, considering that they want to go straight in to that finals lobby here on Sunday, this is their moment to siege it all.
That's right, there are no more chances up for grabs here other than the 5 that's put in front of them. You want to do it here and now. Will you be one of the first top 25 duos to punch through to Sunday? We'll find out. I know you felt that. These are incredible players. This is 50 of the very best. The upper bracket all facing off today. You can feel it. The atmosphere is electric. It's not just this amazing crowd. It is every single one of these players. They all know what they have to do. Top 25 by the end of the day.
Yeah, this is it. This is our lobby. I mean, we haven't spoken about, in depth. How can we not? Bugha, the man himself. What a player, of course, the World Cup winner. How many times have we said World Cup winner? Does anyone need to be reminded at this stage? World Cup winner? No. No, not really.
Never. I mean, Bugha and Threats, I love this duo here. Bugha obviously having the history and the knowledge, with Threats having just some of the most insane aim in the game. Having these two powerhouses together definitely excites me. And what excites me even more is that they're landing Sanguine Suites, one of the new POIs, where they're gonna have those 2 mythic podiums, and it has absolutely insane amount of chests, ammo, and loot. So even though they're gonna be contested by Nutty, I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern for them.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Threats yesterday. I was saying, how are you going to approach that off spawn? He said, mate, there's so much loot at this drop spot. We're not too concerned about fighting each other off spawn, but we want that vault. They're going to be going for that vault every single game, so we'll see how it goes for them.
So insane. More duos to talk about. Iamzo and Rise, front runners from NA, a duo that all of us just feel and expect such greatness from them. Now the question becomes, how do they perform on LAN?
Yeah, the Canadian duo here. A lot of people had a lot of expectations for them going into Major 3. Donda's the best team in NA at that time. Didn't quite live up to that first place, but still managed to get a third place overall. Lots and lots of hype around this team. We haven't seen them perform on LAN yet, so this is going to be a very, very big test for them. Will they live up to that hype? Will the weight lay on their shoulders a little bit and maybe put a little bit too much pressure on them? I'm not sure, but either way, they have the talent.
I mean, you're talking about third place in Major 3, but I don't think that paints the full picture because in Major 1, they also got a third place. In Major 2, their worst performance was 4th.
Yeah.
They have the best placement between all 3 majors than anyone else here. And they're going to be landing in the gas station, which is a great split POI. So I think they might be the kings of NA for today.
What about the kings of OCE? Could that be Worthy and Alex? I had an opportunity to meet Worthy, just a sweet guy.
Yeah.
But Alex is pretty widely regarded as the best player in OCE.
Yeah, 100%. Such a recognizable character in the OCE scene as well. And these guys definitely pack a punch as a duo. In Major 3 Grand Finals, Alex on his own had more eliminations than 33 teams had eliminations. So him as a solo is outperforming some duos, which is absolutely insane. A big thanks to Coach Timmy for that stat, because that is just showing how good these guys can be when they're on this big stage, when they're in those Grand Finals. They do not crumble under pressure.
Well, I mean, I think that incredible power is showcasing also in Majors 1 and 2. He placed 5th and 3rd, but just him because this duo formed in Major 3. They might be actually the newest duo that we're going to be seeing compete here today. And they're going to be landing near that creaky compound where there are so many teams landing there. It's going to be interesting, to say the least.
To say the least, indeed. Now, of course, we only have 5 games here today. Pressure is on. With less games, you cannot make a mistake. How much does even just this going down to 5 games change everything?
I mean, it changed everything, particularly if you are contested. If you lose off spawn, that's a 5th of your games gone, where previously it was a little bit less than that. So you have to make the games count that you are contested off spawn. We talked about Malibuka and Thomas HD versus Aegis and Kanadas earlier. If those guys don't have a good game when they make it off spawn, there's no guarantees that you'll make the next one off spawn. So you have to make it count.
And we always talk about, you know, maybe they're a day 1 team, a day 2 team. Oh, they're going to have an opportunity after day 1 to VOD review and look. They're not going to have that opportunity. Essentially, these are like 3 separate tournaments each day. So these teams are going to have to do everything they can that day to get in that top 25 spot.
Yeah, I think when I think about more of these duos that we're going to see, right, Tayson and Merstash, another duo that kind of just jumps to the front of my mind. Tayson, I mean, if you asked any EU player, you just said the name Tayson, they'd be like, yep, I'm scared, I'm good, leave me alone. But also now paired up with Merstash. Where are these guys landing? What can we expect from them?
I mean, Tayson widely regarded as the GOAT of Fortnite. However, there's a big however.
Okay.
He's yet to do it on LAN. He's yet to do it on this massive stage. So a lot of people would say he's the online GOAT, which I agree with, 100%. He's won so many FNCS across different game modes, different chapters, whatever the meta, he is on top. But what a perfect time, what a perfect storyline for Tayson and Merstash to finally do it, to finally crown Tayson as an in-person winner, not just online.
Yeah, and we're talking about Tayson, but Merstash is also an incredible player in his own right. But there is a thing such as tournament jitters, and Tayson definitely seems to have an issue with that, being in front of all of these people, thousands of people on stage is a little bit different than playing at home in front of your own setup and everything. But I think with the right preparation, they've had a lot of opportunity to practice leading up into this, then maybe he can finally be the LAN GOAT we know he can be.
But how much of that, you kind of talk about being here in front of the crowd, even that one mistake, how much could that affect those mentals, right, Kelly? Because it's easy to say at home, I made a mistake, I'm out, okay, let me just get up, walk around, whatever. This is so very different.
I think it depends on the players and the team. When you have someone like Kanata, which if you guys haven't had the opportunity to watch the Major 3 playback of him, where essentially the entire time he's just screaming, Agers, Agers. I think having mentality like that, even when you're down, is such a big deal. And you'll hear a lot of these players, what's a big part of your success in winning this major, that major. And a lot of them will say keeping their head in the game, even when going down, just talking about what went wrong and moving on from it instead of dwelling on it.
so different. It's so different being in this environment. You're at a different desk. Everything's a little bit different. A chair potentially is a little bit different as well. So everything is almost alien to you from what you're used to. You can't just get up after a bad game, go have a cup of tea and relax in the living room. You have to stay in this area. And that's what can add to the pressure as well. You're in this area, you're in this zone. It's now or never. Can they do it?
I wanted to ask a question here. So obviously the bottom 25 move on to tomorrow, okay?
Yep.
So if you're one of these duos that find yourself in the bottom 25, let's say they've revealed some kind of strategy. Is that good? Is that bad going into lower bracket? Is there some kind of advantage or disadvantage to doing so?
As I said earlier, I don't think you should be aiming or hoping that you get in the lower bracket.
Right.
It's not something that you want. You want to be getting into the grand finals today, now. But if you do end up finding yourself in there, things could definitely change. I think tonight's going to be a very important night for these teams that are going to find themselves in that lower bracket, because there will be 25. And I think that's going to play a big part, because then they'll start to figure out where are we going to be dropping, where's our loot path going to go. We don't know.
I'm getting word. It's time. Now, as we prepare for this first game, you guys find your seats on the battle bus. I want to hear from our casters to prep us before game number 1.
Thank you so very much, Zeke. And yeah, find your seat on the battle bus. Find your seat in the arena here, because we are looking at a very contentious drop map. I know we focused in on a couple of those, head-to-head face-offs, but there are so many more battles happening today.
I think one perfect example we were just discussing was the whole Vico ping. But hold that thought, because the battle bus has gone off and we're ready to roll into game 1.
The FNCS Global Championship game number 1 starts right now. There is the bus. Now we get to jump off and really take to the world and see who will be able to put up all of the numbers that they are claiming that they are worth. Let's watch it. We get to start things off here, of course, with King and Cameron.
And keep in mind, we heard a little bit in the pre-game interviews, King, CalGamer, neither side particularly scared of the other. Both playing his best, but Thomas, he's taking the 50-50. It's Kanata, though, who's going to find the first down.
But it's a trade. It's a trade on both sides. Aegis is down as well. Kanata will have to do a big convert here or go head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Malabuka. Malabuka just has a singular build. He goes for the open exchange. And now Kanata's going for the push. Things are going to slow down. It's going to come down to everything. He gets the first tags. Can he get the follow-up here? Pressure's on. One more tag, and no! Kanata falls. Malabuka comes out on top.
Malabuka with the twin mag, but I don't think the pressure stopped just yet. He's taking a moment here, and that is massive. The reboot band providing just enough coverage away from those pistol shots out of Kanata, and the first 50-50 will go EU's way.
And you can see that is the simple tactics coming into play. A little bit of high ground, all of a sudden the leverage was thrown onto the other side. But here we have Nutty and Capster who are contesting Bugha and Threats here at the Sanguine Suite. This is a very tough battle to have to go against as well, because they too are going for a landing of 50-50, depending on, of course, what you pick up here. But so far, it does seem like Bugha has to play a little bit slow. I do not see his duo inside.
Threats seemingly already eliminated here, so Bugha will be forced to try and choose the proper moment to engage. Just gonna stay crouched for the time being, though. Again, keep in mind the amount of builds he actually has to work with. That Infiltrator Pump might be able to buy him a little bit of time as well, but it seems as though Bugha is investing fully into weaponry here, understanding he can't take that extra second to reload. He doesn't have a teammate to fall back on just in case. And as for Nutty and Abzer, they seem to be just taking their time, actually prioritizing some of the loot inside of Sanguine.
Well, as one duo falls, another one rises up to the occasion. Here we have Ianzo and Rise looking pretty solid, getting their drops and their route together. So far, so good. Speaking about other things happening, though, I did see Baka, who is also contested up towards the northern portion of the map, get an exchange off there, too. And here we get to take a look in with Queasy and Vino down at the Kenjutsu crossing.
Yeah, way south side of the map, and the real curious question to ask here is how well exactly they're going to be able to manage some of that early surge, because being this far south at Kenjutsu, it's not exactly the easiest in terms of elevation, having to deal with some of those other teams surrounding you. Can maybe expect that Queasy might look to wait for Veno to continue scouting a little bit further in, maybe towards the bridge. We might see them looking to implement a little bit of surge strategy. And Sloppy Shores, Tayson, he's having to eat some damage as is, but has plenty of shields to work back with.
Oh yeah, we all know that this here is definitely a very popular exchange. Teams will often fight it out, as Sloppy Shores, one of the major POIs that will just yield so much additional heals, of course, that you can continue to play off of and bounce back from. Meanwhile, Merstache down low, continuing to get his material together. We're gonna jump on over to Datus and Stain here, looking pretty solid over at the Frenzy Fields. Just north of this, we also know that Acorn and Cold were equally contested somewhere near their drop. And look, they've wiped the team, and they're up towards the top right now.
You also have to keep in mind, though, Datus and Stain, guess who they're near at Frenzy? I mean, that's bound to be Seti and Cammy's turf. That's where Seti and Cammy have been establishing themselves the entire year just about. So curious to see whether or not those two will clash. It seems as though Seti has already been eliminated, and that's true. The fact that Stain and Datus were able to take care of them this early on is huge.
Yep, big trades happening here. Now we see Yuma getting tags in the distance too. Surge, of course, is going to be one of the equally most important things to worry about. Meanwhile, in the feed, Acorn has found himself an elimination too. These are all of the contested battles happening here. The drop map standing true exactly as we expected. Teams that were aware of teams that were going to land on them are definitely fighting for it.
And you can imagine the confidence boost, the momentum that some of these teams engaging in those 50-50s are bound to be looking for. And the best part about it is getting those eliminations so early on leaves you plenty of room to actually continue working on their pre-planned loop pathing. Not having to really worry about interference towards some of those rotations can make a big difference in positioning later on.
We'll talk about Acorn and Cold. Take a look here as they're moving out. They picked up their elimination. They're trying to see if they can single out the solo remaining, but nothing just yet. So not really getting greedy with the opportunity put in front of them, but instead banking that elimination. Remember, this is 5 games, right? Only 5 games. You pop off in game number 1, and all of a sudden you're really set up for a potential just seal top 25 for today, right? The goal is get to grand finals.
I mean, just think about the amount of sheer splashes that Acorn just had available for himself. 12 slash splashes to work with is a huge amount. They can definitely take their time in terms of finding those ideal movements in case they need a little bit of that slap effect to work with. Thoric, meanwhile, continuing to seek out a chest that might be left over, splitting there with bolts. Seems to have an idea of maybe looking over towards one of these forecast towers, maybe also keeping an eye out for that reboot van in the distance as well, for anybody that gets some ideas early on.
Forecast tower is definitely extremely powerful. It's going to be one of the best pickups you can play for in the distance, though. Sun's also not making it easy for anyone rotating through the valleys here. Now we have Fastroki and Kylie down at the western, southernmost area of the map here, split up from his teammate, looking to hold out a potential King, maybe rotating down at the bottom. It could be Cal Gamer there, but no, it is King in duo. And they have danger nearby. They've already exchanged between the two. You can see the passive standoff here, but these are fights that are so important. These are fights that you need to, at the very least, entertain for now.
As far as Kylie is concerned as well, a little bit of leverage there over King with some of that height, but seems as though King has spotted out that Kylie is just a little bit across the way from him. But transitioning back over to Pink and Vico. A lot of these players just seeming to take their time. As long as you have a twin mag assault rifle, it just doesn't really seem as though there's too much pressure to activate some surge strategies early on, but Pink here really sitting on some of the augments that he's gonna choose to actually prioritize.
Rolled up, looks like we got a little bit of a standoff here on the rotation on in. Hero and triple FHD. Pretty tough situation to be in. Tagged up here, forced to go ahead and bunker down, save for a second here. It's Ritual and Reet who have a bit of a high ground position here, looking down. Very nice spot to be in. Meanwhile, Girus and Shari also nearby, getting the pressure of the lobby here. Ritual and Reet can determine any team that they want to put the pressure on, and others are going to look inwards to see if they can jump in on it.
Barely hanging on right now, just inside the edge of this zone. And the way that it's breaking out for them just does not seem to be all that favorable. Just like for Snazy and Podesai, under quite a bit of pressure here. Snazy's gonna have to take some time now to actually try and regen some of that white HP, some of that shield as well. Not sure if he even has any members to work with, but Podesai, he's scouting the area, making sure that they're both still aware of what exactly is surrounding them just outside of Rumble Ruins.
They're working here. The community rallying for Podesai here. But a very tough spot to be in halfway through the materials, but hold up. We get back to the fight here. Baka and Pars already had 2 eliminations, and another team is looking to influence them a little bit more as they were trying to get to the new safety. This next zone here, just a minute left before it starts to move again. They're in a pretty difficult spot here, digging deep into the trenches right now. NK Papa is holding it down here.
But again, this is a fight that you're expending time, you're expending some resources and build outside of the zone for both of these players, both of these teams. Well, I say teams, but NK Papa left as a solo to fend for himself. Trapped at brutal fashion, essentially. Does not seem as though Pars and Baka want to let NK Papa go anytime soon. NK Papa already under too much pressure to deal with. Sharptooth just enough to take him out. Easy elimination in the 2 versus 1 scenario. But again, they're all the way at brutal. They still have to rotate into zone.
I just want to say, Pars was putting up a front in the back there, talking, hey man, you know, not too sure about the time zones. He's acting like he wasn't quite sharp and aware, but no, they are leading in eliminations right now, possibly picking out the competitors here today. So far, so good. Meanwhile, TWIS, QNDX, and Rapid already on the move here, trying to get situated. Queasy and Vino. Queasy actually hit the sniper shot to open this one up alongside Vino. Vino really set themselves up for success. So Surge looking well, but not good enough to really conclude the battle. So they're just going to move on over. But for Queasy and Vino, I mean, they'd be surely excited to see Camion City not make it.
I mean, they have to be at this point, given that they're still in. They're still able to continue trying to accrue some points on the leaderboards. I know, taking his time right now with that suppressed sniper, seeing if he has an opportunity here, but instead, no, it's gonna be off in the distance. Trulix and Chicha have caught wind of Queasy and Veno on top of this hill, and that's not the surprise party that Veno was hoping for.
Yeah, let's not forget, Chicho and Trulix were definitely under some pressure here. So they're not sitting the prettiest when it comes down to overall material, but all in all, they do have the great positioning here on the top of this mountain. Yep, Queasy's gonna go in and get on out of there. Picking up augments now as well, really trying to round out his advantage where possible. They're just gonna have to rotate to greener pastures.
Giving Queasy's loadout as well. That first assault definitely gonna come in handy when you've got a gold twin mag. Bonus damage, always a plus on that first shot. And the same thing as well for the first shotgun augment that he had rocking there with that gold Sharptooth. So you can definitely expect him, or expect that there's a reason why him and Veno are looking to try and find those bamboozle opportunities. Not too surprising though to see teams still trying to collect as much brick as possible here. Karmi and Vanyak definitely wanting to acquire just a few more builds, but understanding the fact that with some of these teams starting to trickle in as zone continues to pool just further towards that mega city area, they're gonna have to be careful of the teams rotating from above them.
Yeah, and there are a couple late stragglers looking to make their way to the new zone. Meanwhile, Sphinx and Boyo sitting right above the Acorn and Cold here. Like the positioning so far. No reason to do anything too hasty just yet. Meanwhile, on the feed, Miro's taking his own damage to himself, possibly taking some fall damage, possibly being deep in the zone here, falling on a late rotate. Could be troubles on the horizon here. Not forget, Miro has all of the in-person experience. He has the FNCS titles under his belt, but his teammates needs to pick it up. Let's watch those. Sphinx, look at the material count here. This is a desperate plea to get somewhere that he can replenish. So coming into the Mega City comes with its own risk, but there it is. Refarming material is going to be the name of the game for them. Meanwhile, securing the island, Malibuca and Thomas HD. A huge, huge gain here if you, of course, can secure this. Worth 15 points. You are the first to Rift Island to go ahead and convert.
And it definitely seems as though Malibuca and Thomas are initially going to be successful. I'm not sure if these other teams that are looking to actually rift in will have a chance to catch up in time, as Malibuca, Thomas still holding down the capture point. You've got to be aware of the fact that there are bound to be some other teams. Maybe if they can't get the capture point, might still be looking for the vault that remains, but that is a free 15 points there for Malibuca and Thomas, and the teams rotating from the underside. They've got to be careful now because that's some good loot for Malibuca and Thomas.
Another way to look at that, Baka has 3 elims. They scored more points than those 3 eliminations are worth in just a matter of 15 or so seconds. Very, very great way to put yourself into a Sunday position. And now we watch some of Brazil's best Kitos and PH Zin versus Baka and Pars here. Man, Baka and Pars has not had an easy way to the safe zone so far. I wouldn't be surprised if Storm Sickness turns on at this point for them.
But when you think about it, they're nearly 600 above the damage threshold to be that far up on Surge and yet still in a less than favorable position here. Is there a possibility that they may have spent too much time looking for some of those early fights, and that might have delayed them just long enough?
Yeah, well, listen, we got to get caught up with the in-game and the mid-game, so let's go to 11.
Thank you very much, Monster. Look, there are so many high-profile battles we've been watching all across the map. But one that we need to pay attention to, the Invitational champions, Cammy and Seti, went down early against Daedus and Stain, and it was a fight we knew could happen, but many people didn't actually expect it to go down how it did. Daedus and Stain wiped Cammy and Seti off spawn, and now they're conceding throughout the game, and it's going to be a big question mark for whether or not Cammy and Seti can bounce back, and how are Daedus and Stain going to use this opportunity? How many more times can they continue to beat these guys off spawn? I had the chance to speak to Daedus and Stain yesterday, and even though they don't speak English, I tried my best, and they were there practicing their drops. They said they were ready, they said they had the better drops, and they were going to beat Cammy and Seti 5 out of 5.
What a bold statement to make. Thank you, Levin, for the insights there and the valuable insight of being able to really hear from their perspectives. But we have Bugha. Oh, big tags coming in for Bugha. He doesn't have a teammate either. Threat's already down for the count here. He's below the surge. He's gonna have to do more here, Taco.
Bugha just looking so isolated right now. Bing and Gun just really taking their time to see whether or not they want to try and finalize on an elimination onto Bugha. Bugha definitely aware, definitely closing in, sees that brief moment of separation there between Gun and Ping, and feels as though it might be his opportunity to strike, but Gun being certainly aware of the fact that they're going to have Bugha trailing in behind them, and Bugha, he's trying to take shots where he can. Gun having some difficulties getting those builds up behind him. That's going to put them in a really rough position as both of these teams struggling to make it into zone.
For a second there, I thought he got the knock there.
Close.
Would have been a huge come up for him, but now he does have to move in. So just 97 above, he will recognize that, of course, he has to continue to fight and push his way through this. Meanwhile, Hodesai finds an elimination onto Kitos. And other trades happening there too. 7-man finding an elimination. And his teammate Mshari gets one as well. So Middle East finding their success tier 2. Let's jump on over to Miro. Miro, who picked up Okis just a bit ago. That's going to be the single Elim in the pocket there. And a long, long rotate now as they have to push all the way eastern here if he wants to get safe.
You can see Miro kind of just hoping that nobody's going to spot him out from Mega City, but for Miro and Cooper, all too easy pickings here. Onto poor Okis trying to hold his own, but unfortunately, this pincer maneuver is one that we've seen time and time again from the likes of Miro and Cooper. Just a synchronized attack that is way too problematic for any solo to deal with.
Look at that, Alex and Worthy
turns the corner, and Gon is waiting there from the outside of the zone. So we know Bugha is also close by. It's a very dangerous pocket to be in. I like that they're going out and around the edges here, but zone is already up to 2 ticks worth of damage for every time you sit in the zone there.
Alex and Worthy also have a little bit of an uphill adventure. Crash Pad's definitely gonna help out with that as far as just getting them some forward distance coverage, but again, you have to expect that there's a decent amount of teams that were kind of situated inside of Mega City. Those will be some of the front leaders as far as getting more towards that center of zone. Got a handful of teams trying to prioritize as things continue to pull further and further away from Mega City. And Hero, a nice little glide in, won't be interrupted there on the launch pad, but look at this, Lou, look at these builds. That is not the kind of loadout that you want to see this deep into the game.
Yeah, big commitment as well into the double Metal Fortress here to pick themselves up that low ground position. Meanwhile, Acorn and Cold just slide their way in, so big teams we're seeing here on the horizon. Tayson Mustache still alive, Malabuka and crew up top. Meanwhile, FHD, Fahad opens the window and gets punished immediately. Looks like Hero's gonna have to leave his teammate down for the count potentially here now as he's going on in. Not worth sitting around here. Potentially has the team on the hunt. Yes, it is. Yuma right on his heels here. And Vino and Queasy jump in to finish the deal. So that's gonna be the huge refreshers for Vino and Queasy now.
But, you know, Queasy, they have so much space to work with. You can see some of the congestion that's starting to build on this bottom edge of the zone, but as far as Queasy and Men are concerned, they're definitely far enough above damage threshold, 439 damage above. That heisted breacher as well for Queasy, depending on which direction they actually choose to tarp out in, could make some quick work of builds and lead for a great attack opportunity there.
Bugha's in a very tough position here, 172 damage below the surge threshold as the pressure continues to mount on top of his shoulders here. Already out of material now. This is an all or nothing situation. He hears a fight happening nearby. This is a couple of quick farms there, but he has to get into this one. This is truly all or nothing, but no! Bound, and he makes his way through the builds there and crushed.
That's just the unfortunate side effects of not having any builds of your own to work with. You're just breaking through everybody else's with a pickaxe, hoping that you're not gonna break through the wrong build. Find somebody right behind you or right in front of you. Snazy and Podesai, though, follow on with them a little bit earlier on. We saw them initially in some pressure throughout some of that mid-game, but definitely managed to work through it. High ground, though, doesn't really seem to be too feasible for them from this position. It seems as though that's a little bit more in control over there with likes of Thomas Malabuka maybe looking to work their way up. Also saw Kylie doing a decent job, decent hill position there.
Yeah, really having to use these crash pads here to get on out now. It's time to make a move, but again, no one near them who's really gonna give them any kind of resistance here. So it's gonna be a quick slide on down the side here. As long as no one opens up the edit, they are fine. And Thomas and Malabuka with expert precision get right into position here. It's going to be set up for the first to make it to the new zone. Meanwhile, Pink finds Miro. He's down and out on high ground as well. Trulex and Chicho set up for success. So we're already looking at a very big game. Remember, with just 5 in front of us, a huge performance is really all it takes to give you the leg up, put you in the spot to walk away straight to Sunday and not have an early day of competition tomorrow.
But here's a little early glimpse into the leaderboard so far in match number 1, and Thomas Malabuka, they seem to be leading the charge. And with Ping and Kyrie having just been freshly eliminated there, this is a moment we saw Malabuka and Thomas looking to see as though they might try to work their way up through that secondary height layer, but as far as Mustache and Tayson are concerned, they know they've got teams surrounding them every which way. Right now, it's about picking the right direction to go, and a lot of these teams trying to avoid some of the water that's just on the side of the zone.
NA just has a few teams alive, Acorn and Cold being one of them, Baka and Pars. Cooper is up still too. Meanwhile, Queasy and Vino
some of EU's best on the move right now. Crash Rats perfectly putting them in position right now. But Snazy and Pawdasai fall on this rotate here. Very tough time for them. Indeed, Queasy playing for high ground right now. This is what we love about Queasy, but no, someone's gonna shut that dream down. All the material commit there put to waste as now they have been crushed there, but here comes Vino to go in and reconnect, and high ground is theirs here.
King, meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, as a solo forced into the water, swimming through this ultimate low ground, hoping that he doesn't encounter anybody else anytime soon, but it's gonna be mixing off to his side, not able to connect the shot, swims directly underneath a duo, and it's gonna be an opportunity for Strokey to possibly get knocked. No, instead it's gonna be King under pressure, and it's too much. The elimination onto the Brazilian King.
Yeah, the comms come out, they say, wait, there's someone under here. Come down, support me, and with no hesitation, there was Strokey and Kylie just coming on in, getting the full finish there. Here's Pars and Baka. Baka so hurt, but 6 eliminations, my gosh. They are doing it again. They did it at the Invitational. They're doing it at the championship so far. Remember, this is gonna be arguably the most difficult bracket to fight your way out of. It is, of course, the 50 best that played through their respective times of those seasons throughout this entire year.
But look up, it's Queasy, it's Veno. They get chopped momentarily by Mustache, but it's still not seeming to deter them from maintaining control of this high ground. Mustache now hoping that this legendary Slurp Juice is going to buy him enough time to get out of this difficult position that he's landed into with Jason and Cole. Meanwhile, backside of the zone, trying to charge his way forward, looking to stay as close to Acorn as possible, because as things continue to move, you can expect all these other duos to follow suit. And Alex gonna eat a shot immediately, Alind.
Meanwhile, high ground goes for a fight here. Mustache and Tayson trying to take it all away. They take down OZE's power. Alex as well there. Big find for him. But no, they have to conclude. They have to concede it. They give it down. Queasy puts up the fight against Tayson and puts him down as well. No material left for the high ground team. A very tough spot to be in, but it's all or nothing now. The end game is already theirs. This is surely a successful run already. Re is still up too.
But they just need barely enough builds to actually connect it to the hill over this water where everyone else is trying to deal with it. Reet, though, alongside Ritual, everything in his power here, gets the elimination onto Acorn. It looks as though Queasy may have fallen in the feed as well.
What a big trade here. Just a couple players left now. This is it. Vino solo here, but he does have builds. The clutch is possible. He's also one of the healthiest here on the lobby. Strokey doesn't have much to work with. He also can't get up and over. It's gonna come down to the siphon of whether or not he can get the conclusion, and Vino does. But getting here, finds Strokey in the finish, and Vino wins the game.
This is starting to look pretty familiar, Monster. Queasy and Veno striking first in game number 1 of the Global Championship.
What a way to do it as well. Explosive fashion, in historic fashion. You know, they are a team that should be racking up wins, and they're doing just that. Lucky for us, we have Frankie there for the word.
Yes, I have run down to this booth. I knew exactly where you were sat, boys. This is exactly the start you were looking for. So stand up so Copenhagen can see you. Come on, Queasy. Veno, what's it like to win the first victory royale of the Global Championship? Because I know that Major 3 was a bit of a tough time for you.
It's standard for us. It's standard. You know, every year we always got to win first game. We always got to have some victory royales, and you know, we just got to do what we got to do.
Is it nice to be back in the same space on land together? Does that help in game?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from last year, we came here to finish the story, and we'll see how it goes.
How are you making season 4 work for you?
I think we're well prepared. We try to hide everything that we could, and we'll see in the finals.
So tell me about that final fight then, because it was an EU number. You know your opponents quite well. Why do you think you were able to get the upper hand?
I mean, you know, we had Thomas and Malbuga come up on high, and we put them down, thanks to Queasy and myself. And then, you know, I clutched out as a solo. You know, it's just standard, and I can't really say anything more, you know?
Well, you don't want to tell everyone in Copenhagen that you took down the Danish boy Thomas, so you're not scared that you're going to become a villain here?
You know, well, I think we came in on our villain arc. And because we came second, you know? We want to show the rivalry's over.
But it's not, is it?
I mean, we'll see. I'm looking at them now.
Well, you guys fix your eyes on each other and get ready to board the battle bus again as we head back to the desk. Congratulations, Queasy and Vino.
Here we go. Global Championships kicks off. And what do we expect? Not quite this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Queasy and Veno. To be honest, there were so many names, right? But of course, Queasy and Veno say, Zeke, hold on a minute. This is us. I love that he kind of calls out, we're on our villain arc. Yeah. I agree. I think these guys want and have so much to prove. In the year they've had, right? That second place to us is amazing. Wow, second place, life-changing amount of money. To them, it was a loss. Now they're coming back stronger than ever, and they want the W.
Yeah, these guys are winners, right? They see second as the same as 50th. It doesn't matter to them whether anyone else is taking that crown because they want it to be them. They want to make sure they can do it. And I really, really like the way they played that end game. Beautiful stuff from them. Just typical Queasy Veno stuff. They're on high ground. They got to that front side of zone, cranked up, actually fell down at the beginning of that end game, which kind of threw them off a little bit, but no, they're used to that sort of situation, and that's exactly what they do best.
I do think that the zone pulled a little bit in their favor, but by zone 3, Queasy not only had a gold Twin Mag AR, a gold Sharp Tooth as well, 6 crash pads, but also had 2 mythic slurps. They were set for success from the get-go.
We see them, of course, get chopped right there. That was the moment that kind of set them a little bit away, but no. Taking out Malibuca right there, that breacher shotgun, as you mentioned, Kelly, so good on height, just putting the pressure down and actually using those crash pads. Of course, we saw Queasy going down a little bit earlier here, but I think if I'm Queasy, I'm going to be so confident having Veno on my side because, I mean, just look at that. That's what he can do. Massive shots. If there's anyone you want clutching up as a solo, it's Veno. He's got the aim. He's got the game sense. He has the mechanics. And of course, he's such a smart player. Just look at what it means to them. Getting off to a great start. What a start for them. They couldn't have wanted anything different.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have seen so much about this duo is it really doesn't matter what situation they get put in. A lot of times we do kind of see this happen. One or the other is left alive, but what both do together is they're setting the other up. So it's like, even if one of us falls, it doesn't matter. I've set you up. You have everything you need. Go make something happen. Now, of course, in this situation, Final 3, Veno's like, got you right where I want you.
Yeah, the players that they were going up against too were incredible players, and so still to be able to do that as a solo player like Veno just did just shows how confident and calm he can be, but also very excited too. But I mean, if we're talking about Queasy and Veno, we gotta talk about the other side of the coin, right? Seti and Cammy going down early, just like Levin showed us.
Yeah, really rough start for those guys. A start they definitely wouldn't have wanted. I was saying at the beginning of the show, they were practicing their drop spots. They were looking good, but unfortunately, things can change. Bus paths can change, of course. Environments can change. You never know what can happen. And of course, when you're fighting against a team that isn't on your home region, usually things can be different. Teams have different play styles that you cannot possibly prepare for. So if there's anything we know about Cammy and Seti, when they do make it off spawn, I'm sure in the next games in the future, they'll be absolutely fine. It's just getting to that end game for them might be a problem.
Yeah, and this is just the first game, right? Obviously, with only 5, which is usually the typical 6, we don't want to be making mistakes like this, but they still have 4 more to make something happen. Now, of course, a couple other duos we wanted to highlight for you guys, Thomas HD and Malibuca. Again, like, as we talk about names, you're just going to be like, yeah, nah, I forgot about them. I mean, I know they're here. The top 8 is great, but looking to perform here as well, and a pretty good showing in game number 1.
Yeah, not a bad showing at all. I mean, we saw it in game in the first little off-spawn battle right there. What a time to do it. What a way to kick off the weekend, right? Thomas HD managing to win out off-spawn. It wasn't even Thomas, actually, that clutched it up. It was, of course, Malibuca who managed to pick up this assault rifle off-spawn. Really, really great for him, actually, because he just found that little bit of high ground there at the end. I really like the way he used the reboot van to block as much shots as possible. And then this little hut, managing to find that high ground and then finally take out Kanada. What a start for this duo. And we know how the rest of the game went. Solid game for them as well.
Although it did go down to a 1v1, and I think a lot of people may have been expecting Malibuca and Thomas HD kind of just take it so soundedly, and I think that they might be taking it a little bit easier in these next few games just because of how close it was. You saw Kanada trying to grab height right there, and you were right that Malibuca was able to use that reboot van to his advantage. But if Kanada just got a little bit closer, a little bit sooner, it could have been a bit of a disaster for Malibuca.
Can't forget, of course, they had that Rift Island as well. Of course, it was a south playing zone. They know where the spawns are just outside of that racetrack area. There's not actually too many spawns down in that sort of southeast area, so they were actually able to sort of predict where it was going to be, and they managed to get on there uncontested completely. Nobody wanted to go for it. First game of an in-person event. Who has the guts to go for the island? It's these guys.
Yeah, and of course, the crowd did lose it when we saw that happen, but here we go. A look at our standings. Now, please remember, we have another 4 games to go, but right now, as it stands, Queasy and Veno, after that victory royale and the 7 eliminations, they hold down that #1 spot. But look at a couple of names here, right? Re and Ritual. I mean, 76 points off of the back of 5 eliminations as well. There's no double digits yet in this top 10, but to just kind of see this list of names, man, this is wild.
Yeah, another team there as well. Kylie Fast-Roki in 3rd place. They actually land sort of towards the area in that sort of steamy strings area, so the zone was definitely in their favor. But in a 5-game format, if you can get that first zone under your belt, get those points on the board early, that's a really, really great start for those guys. Because remember, they qualified through the Last Chance Major, so they want to try and put on... they didn't qualify to... Sorry, Major number 3, that's tomorrow. They qualified to Major number 3, so they left it to the last. That's one of those teams that want to get off to a good start here to try and boost their confidence and make sure that they can make it through to Sunday.
Man, I do want to give some shout outs to Reet and Ritual. I know I always take the chance when I get the opportunity to.
Yeah, you go ahead.
But
That's why I said it.
I mean, Reet has just evolved as a player from the last 2 years. He used to be the W Key King to the point where you couldn't really contain him. But around zone 3 or 4, you saw him playing patiently. They towered up pretty early on, able to get those Storm Surge tags. And it wasn't until towards the end game that Reet really popped off and grabbed a few eliminations. They're not really a placement player. And to see him get that 2nd place spot or 3rd place and eliminations as well, I mean, I'm just proud to see him evolve as a player.
It was really difficult down those lower layers as well. Remember that end zone? It was all over water. It was an absolute mess. I saw King there just swimming
like
through.
A shark.
Like a shark down below, trying
crazy.
to scoop up some loot. Of course, he ended up getting taken out, but those are the difficult times. If you don't have those materials, you don't have those refreshes. When you have the fragging power of Re, that's where those refreshes come into play, because you need those builds in that water zone.
Some would say those Reet freshes. Anyway, let's go back to the leaderboard. Let's talk about more. Just Zeke things.
It's a Zeke thing.
Another duo we kind of highlighted at the start of the show in 6th place. You can see Cold and Acorn, right? They did manage to find themselves the 5 eliminations, but they're maybe lacking a little bit on those placements. Now, I feel like for me, rather than kind of like go through all these duos and kind of talk about everybody, I kind of want to talk about what we saw in that game. Mad congested, right? There was, toward the end game, almost no one had materials, right? Everyone's doing the same thing. We are trying to go on the defensive. We don't want to make a mistake here in game #1.
Well, that's due to the fact that this is a low mobility meta. Besides the rocket ramp, so these players, instead of being able to kind of just use these mobility items to rotate around the map, they're going to have to tarp up. They're going to have to protect themselves as they rotate all the way to that far southeastern side. So it does kind of benefit the teams that are closer there, or the teams we did see a few players using rocket rams in there, or at least having them in their loadout just in case. But this is going to be a difficult meta. It did start in Major 3, so a lot of these players are already used to it, but still, utilizing your mats when you can is definitely going to be a big part.
And we mentioned them there, Acorn and Cold in 6th place. They made it to that end game because of their off spawn. And initially, we were thinking, right, these guys have been contesting Pink and Vico. That's been the storyline for the whole time. But it seems like they actually switched drop here, and they actually ended up going towards iDrop and Mappy in that sort of central area where all of those caravans are. They actually switched their drop. Last minute, they thought, yeah, let's just try and land on this team, and it worked out for them. So that just shows how those little decisions like that, switching the drop spot at the last moment, can make a big difference.
And it did make a big difference. We saw earlier on in the game that Acorn and Cold had 12 splashes on just one player. And again, using those rotations, that's pretty much one of the only mobility items in the game besides the launch pads and then, of course, the mini crash pads as well. I mean, they definitely seem to have used that change in drop spot, which isn't something we typically see on this caliber, really well. And another team that I want to talk about just by the leaderboard that we saw is Thomas HD and Malibuca. You can see through their placement points that they didn't get that many placement points, but the 15 points from the Rift Island made up the difference.
Those mid-match objectives, will make or break some duos. Now, at the start of the show, we talked about Tayson, the online GOAT, looking to make that LAN title kind of all-encompassing, just GOAT status, paired up with Merstash after this game, right? This was a pretty decent start, right? And again, like, we have to kind of be mindful that, remember, there's 6 regions, it's just game 1, there's a lot of jitters. After game 2, what can we see them adapt or change that might make this game 2 crazier for them?
I mean, we saw them go for height there. We saw them pre-popping those slurves. You see it at this moment right here. Merstash just trying to look up at Queasy and Veno to go for that high ground. Tayson, unfortunately, getting taken out so forth. This was a difficult situation for them. Didn't quite have the builds to make it happen. And that can be the problem. If you're cranking up on that backside of zone, you're expending so many materials. And if you're going up against a great height team like Queasy and Veno, that's where things can get difficult. But a really great start from this duo. Of course, landing at the north side of Slappy Shores. We saw them getting those surge tags really, really early. Massive base that they seemingly build every single game they go there. All those extra heals, it got them to that end game. And they just need to keep that consistency, because if they keep it up, they're going to do good.
And I think what helped them too is that they were holding second high or in that mid ground really well, where a lot of people, a lot of the top teams were kind of fighting for that high ground, or they were in the depths of the water below. So by being aware, situationally aware of where all the other teams are and taking that advantageous position in the mid ground definitely helped them.
For sure. Now, of course, that crazy moment in the Victory Royale was wild, but we have the ability to listen in on the players. So let's relive this moment, but from Veno's perspective.
Nice. Dead. 200 dead. I got it. I'm coming up. I have Siphon. Crash betting. I'm rocking, okay? Oh yeah, I'm dead probably. I'm dead. Top four, all duos. Land on, nice. Corner. Nice. I'm stacked. Yeah. 2v2. Or two, one solo and a duo. Top three. You have Madness. Play Madness top 2. Play Madness top 2. Trust. I'll let you know if he gets knocked. I got him. I knocked him. Yeah. 1v1. You're good.
That's kind of nuts, right? I love that Veno is able to just focus, right? It's just about just let me rock my mechanics, right? Just tell me where to look, tell me what to do, and then just let me execute upon that. Queasy just so calm, right? He's like obviously there is a bit of chaos in the moment, but Queasy just listen, just grab this. You're fine. Trust, you've got this.
And that's such a skill as well. I feel like not many people talk about it. When you are down and your teammate is solo clutching like that, the comms that you give are so vital. You can see Queasy just making sure that he is giving the absolute perfect comms, what he needs to know. Maybe he might have missed something. Maybe it's his heals. Maybe it's his materials. But Veno's like, okay, let me cook. Just give me the ingredients that I need.
And part of the reason he cooked there was that rocket ram, using it to go straight up into the air. See where the rest of the remaining lobby is. Land down immediately and get that incredible shot. That's why we're seeing them in first place right now. 93 points to start off the day. A pretty decent lead relative to the rest of the lobby here.
And, you know, I don't want to say necessarily bravery, but to use that rock ram in that situation almost is like... It's risky, right? Mad, high risk, high reward, but for him, he makes it work. Here's a look at our top 20 duos as it stands just after game number 1. Remember, 4 more to go. We had highlighted Cooper and Mira, though, in the 16th place at the top of the show, as well as Alex and Worthy. Or is there maybe a duo standing on these top 20 that stand out to you guys?
I think for me, it's Gripey and Flixie. These guys land at Mega City, so you would maybe expect them to have a little bit of a better game right there, sat in 19th place. When the zone does pull towards you, especially at Mega City, you can just sit on those towers, on those buildings, and try and farm Storm Surge. I think they might have struggled with that a little bit because, of course, so many teams are rotating in, but it might be a little bit too late. You almost need to rotate out, get that Storm Surge, try and get back on that high ground at the right moment. And from what I've seen from those guys, they're doing that so well previously. Maybe a few spanners in the works have been a little bit more difficult for them because they needed to try and find those refreshes, and that water zone definitely didn't help either.
I mean, I was looking at the top of that page 2 right there, and Alex and Worthy representing the OCE region a good job after game number 1 there. And I know that a lot of people tend to think that these competitions are going to be, you know, EU and then maybe NA, but a lot of these, you know, smaller regions showing up right from the get-go.
And it's about making a statement in this first day, right? Remember, first 5, top 25 go on to grand finals on Sunday. So the job's not done. But it's about making those statements. It's about saying, regardless of what we do, if you see us in grand finals, you know what to expect from us.
Yeah, and I think you saw that in the reaction from Queasy and Benno, right? They were hyped. Like, they were happy. You got to be happy at winning first game of day one of the Global Championships, but they weren't too happy. They didn't let their emotions get the better of them. They were very, very cool, calm, collected in that interview, and I think that's absolutely vital for them because they know it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, and speaking of a marathon, we saw Baka kind of going on a marathon throughout that game right there, grabbing so many eliminations, and part of that definitely has to be to that mythic MK7 that he had there. He was 600 damage above Storm Surge in the middle of the game, and by having that on your pocket, it's definitely going to be, you know, a bit more of a confidence boost leading into the end game.
Okay, so we've highlighted some duos. We talked about what we like. What did we maybe not like out of this first game? Are there things we're kind of hoping to see change going into these next four? Because remember, this is it. You want to end the day in top 25.
Yeah, I think I want to see less water in the end zone next game. How about that? Can we get a little less water, please? I want to see low ground teams starting to do good. I want to see Omzo rise. I want to see them starting to play their way through the mid and low ground layers. So, yeah, a little bit less water, Kelly. I think, what about you?
And I always just prefer to see the zone change in different spots. I think that really makes or breaks these teams because although, yes, Queasy and Vino are an incredible duo in their own right, they did have an advantage by the zone pulling in Southeast. So by showcasing, if they can get another VR, if it pulls all the way to the Northwest, well, that's what makes them champions.
For sure. And I think, I feel like we'd do an injustice, one could say, if we didn't talk about the X factor that wasn't part of this game. Cammy and Seti, right? If they had been left alive, how different would this endgame have been?
I mean, who knows is the question, right? I mean, these guys, of course, Queasy and Benno are a fantastic duo. They won on high ground, but Cammy and Seti can disrupt lobbies like that. They can play their way through those mid-ground layers. And of course, sometimes we've seen them. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, how they're able to go for high ground now. We saw that sort of developing throughout Chapter 3. We saw them trying to go for that height, just adding another dynamic, another element to their game. So, of course, as you mentioned, they're not necessarily labeled as a height team necessarily, but they can do it. So if it's anyone can sort of contest those guys, maybe it's them.
I mean, showcasing, though, that they did have that rough start. I don't know exactly how their positions would have been towards the mid and late game there. And I think by having that rough start, if they did make it and survive into the end game, they probably would have stuck to the low ground. And we saw how chaotic that low ground was. So I don't know if they necessarily would have even attempted to go for high ground, especially with the two duos of Queasy and then Thomas HD's going up on high. I think that they, you know, may have not even had that great of an end game if they did make it there.
Okay. So what we're saying is people are fighting over high ground.
Yeah.
We want more of that because
high ground
more
wins games.
Fun and that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Queasy Benno, they won 6 games out of 12 in Major 2 from high. So it just, if that's anything to go by, I think all the teams want to be on that high ground for sure.
I'll say something. I want to see Bugha again in game number 2. He held out so long as a solo player, which is something you would expect with someone as much experience as him, being able to understand when to leave a fight, how to rotate away from everyone else through the dead side rotation. And I think he could do even better with threats.
Yeah, that was a kind of a difficult situation to be put in, right? So many people landing there at Mega City, losing threats very, very early on, and then there's just so much pressure. You can't go for the reboot. You can't try and make something happen. He did still manage to find eliminations, right? That's still points. We still are working towards something, but I think you're right, Kelly. With threats there, it could be different, Mini.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw Bugha actually going down to Surge there. He was trying to be a little bit too aggressive because he needed that Storm Surge damage. And when you're only 1 of 2, it's so difficult to do double the damage that you need because, of course, he's only on his own. He tried his best. And being only 174 below at that point is a credit to how much damage and how much aggression he was showing in that mid game because he needed to do it. But, I mean, it's Bugha. He can make anything happen.
Yeah, and this is still just game 1 of day 1.
It's fine.
There's so many more opportunities for these duos to change up their play style and potentially pull out something we haven't seen before.
That's right. Well, let's hear from Frankie, who's actually standing by because we want to hear what's going down in the crowd.
Well, I think Copenhagen thoroughly enjoyed game number 1. Did you love it, Copenhagen? Were you happy that it was a European victory? Let me hear you. I have met a couple of Americans who's traveled all the way here. I don't know if there are many North American fans in the audience. Can we hear it? Do you love North America? That's not bad. And don't forget, this is the Friday, so the audience is still arriving because people are coming from work. Maybe someone's plane was delayed. What about Brazilian fans? You can always count on the Brazilian fans to show up for their players. Any esport, any game, the Brazilian fans always give love. We've also got so many Japanese players on stage as well. I did meet a lovely Japanese family who came in just for them today as well. Any more Japanese or Asian fans? Oh, I love it. They've all gathered over here. We literally have a row over here of the Japanese fans. Oh, we literally have an entire group of people who are in jerseys who are here to support the Japanese players. And what about Middle East and Africa? Oh, well, we've certainly got some of the crowd going, and I can't wait to hear how things hot up as the competition continues. For now, let's head back to the desk.
This is what it's all about. It's hard to not get a little bit emotional when you think about, like, we have been having competition kind of separate all year, right? And now getting to come together to just compete. Obviously, there's a lot of stakes, but when you just think about this concept, 6 regions all going head-to-head, the fans in the stadium, I'm sure fans at home watching, all the people you are all cheering for, it's just something else, man.
So good. I mean, we see it online. We see some stuff on social media, people having a little bit of banter between themselves, a little bit of rivalry, some love as well between different regions. But to see it all here, right now is absolutely amazing. I like the fact that Frankie went around the whole arena there to see who was where we expect to see some people, and we have some very, very loud fans here.
Oh, just a bit indeed. So gentle. I mean, yes, there is a little bit of banter going on online, but there's also a little bit of banter going on in the pre-show.
Yep.
But I want to talk about Reet and Ritual. I already talked a little bit about them, but I just want to showcase how they were able to make it into the end game there. And as we can see, 5 eliminations and that 2nd place spot. I mean, that's a great start.
It's a great start from this team. I mean, we've seen these guys. I mean, we've seen Reet performing on these international stages before. Not quite having the best results that we would expect from his caliber of player, but I mean, he's crazy. He's going to be hopping in boxes as we get to have a little look at some of the highlights from them. Of course, Ritual putting on such a great show there as well. And again, this is what we talked about earlier. They're just able to pick up refresh. You can see Reet right now, 0 builds. He thrives in these environments. When he's got nothing, when he's down in the dirt, he can just pull something out of the bag. And you can see it right here. He's got all the loot to make it happen as much as possible. Unfortunately, couldn't quite make it all the way to a victory, but 2nd place for those guys. If that hill wasn't in the way, a little Reet versus Veno 1v1, I want to see it.
And I love just him showcasing there all of the ability that he has.
Yeah.
The quick builds, the easy edits, the great eliminations, the patience as well as the aggression. I mean, that's what it takes to be a top player. It's not just having good aim. It's not just having game sense. It's having it all.
Yeah, and I think what that gameplay showed me, and actually something we've kind of seen a lot of, but more players have kind of shined a light on, is these sneaky tactics, right? It's not about, let me just run at you. Because remember, these players are playing with indicators. There's so many ways to kind of know there's a threat incoming. But for so many players, they're kind of utilizing the strategy where we're just going to crouch around. We're come around this corner. We're not going to build. We're not going to make any sounds. And then suddenly, bang, we're here. And now you're in a fight for Reet. This took him up to 2nd place.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I mean, we saw him there with the exotic shotgun just doing so much damage, jumping right in the box. I think that shotgun and him are like a match made in heaven. I mean, it's the perfect shotgun just to jump in the box and go crazy with. So I'm expecting more of that from them. I'm expecting them to maybe try and keep consistent whilst also going for those eliminations. But it's one of those situations for them where, do they have what it takes? I think so. It's all about how can they feel after game number 2. What's going through their head right now? How do you even pick up from a game where I'm sure they would have hoped to have won, but they couldn't have got off to a much better start than that, only 1 place.
My only concern is that they can be a bit of emotional players, and being emotional is, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It does give you that passion, that excitement, but then it also can be a big detriment where once you're down, you are down for the rest of the competition. Now, again, I keep talking about the evolution of these 2 as players, so hopefully they have been able to kind of break past that wall. But I mean, my goodness, game number 1 and just so many big names going down early, so many new teams also coming through and kind of showcasing their region. And I already talked about the Baka and Pars. Baka and Pars getting 8 eliminations in that game.
I mean, they just seem to have a game where they were so far away from the zone almost seemingly every single time, yet they managed that so really well. We saw them taking that fight all the way up on the north side of the map, which did drag out a little bit. Of course, a 2v1 situation, you want to be getting that done as soon as possible. You want to be cleaning that fight up ASAP. So for them, they had to expend a little bit of heals, of course, but that did give them the Storm Surge damage. I know Taco mentioned it on the cast. They had so much Storm Surge damage at this point. It's a testament to their fighting ability, and you can see it again, needing those refreshes, hopping in the box. And recently, these guys have really been impressing me. They've been cooking. They've been doing really good. I mean, look at that.
Baka down to a sliver of health, literally 1 HP. But what he did is incredible. The confidence that he has. He didn't run away and turn tail, which a lot of these players would do. Instead, he kept going for that refresh, and clearly it worked out for them. Pars unfortunately getting 1v2'd there, but still, after that fight, they have to be feeling good.
Remember, both these guys actually played with different teammates at the Invitational, so I think those land jitters, they're not going to be affecting those guys quite as much, and I think that's why they got off to a very, very good start there. Despite the zone pulling all the way down to the south, they had all the answers to all of those questions, and I think in this stage, in this environment that we're in, that's the most important thing, just trusting your game.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting word that game 2 of the day is ready. So let's send it back on up to the casters to get things started. Thank you so very much, Zeke. And that's right. We're really beginning the reset right now. Game 2 is just moments away. And as we already know, we will have to see what will happen with Kanata on the drop here alongside Aegis. Aegis put out the numbers, but here it is. Game number 2 is ready.
And just like that, we are right back in it with match number 2 of day 1 here of the upper bracket of the Global Championship. And again, Monster, you were just starting to touch on it, but some of these initial 50-50s, particularly that one down at Drift Ridge, not going the way that maybe some of these players might have expected.
And crazy, look at this, the 50-50 Stain and Datus landing directly on top of Seti and Cammy. Really looking to play upset here. Seti quite doesn't land perfectly inside. He doesn't get a weapon first, but Cammy does. Cammy does exactly what he needs to. Gets the finish here, gets the siphon as well. And it's all in his favor right now. Here comes the pressure.
But it's all up to Datus to keep the hopes of Asia alive here. They managed to win out in game number 1. Seti, though, relatively low. We see Kanata as well, striking back for revenge there with a knock onto Malabuka. But the action here at Frenzy Fields, it's continuing to build as Datus now looking for a little bit of a wraparound just outside of this barn. Datus getting some nice shots. Seti will go down. Now it's just a 1v1 between Cammy and Datus.
Man, Datus really showing us what he is capable of. Coming second, the FNCS Major 3 for the Asian region, but no, comes in and Cammy finishes the job. They strike back, but it's not over yet. Meanwhile, it looks like Kanata and Agers have also finished the deed on their side of the map. You got to think, look, Kylie Fastroki listening to what's happening here. So Cammy and Seti are not safe just yet. Meanwhile, North, Pars, Baka, coming out of the early game, they had 3 eliminations. So it wasn't just this team they finished. They had more to fight after this.
But it started with Pars and Baka getting that early duo elimination onto Misha and Teeny. And whether or not they can look for a repeat instance is all going to boil down to whether or not Baka and Pars really want to try and take a more aggressive push here.
We
Hollow Whispers
have to bounce back, though. We absolutely have to look at a quick highlight here. Take a look at how Kanata, with the redemption shot here, opens up onto Malabuka. The greed was real. He finishes him off, and then Thomas HD in the distance. The shoes were changed. Put on the other foot here. They secure the slurp truck, get the double angle, and Kanata aggressively slides on over to get the full finish. And now they have a chance to fight back here. We could be seeing both of them in Sunday finals.
If it wasn't for that slurp truck, things might have looked a little different there for Kanata, because I don't know if you noticed, but only 8 shots left in that twin mag. But again, now it's going to be Thomas and Malabuka who are left to sit and simmer, wait to see whether or not they can finalize things there in game 3.
Crazy to think too, there's only 5 games, right? And all of a sudden now 2 of our favorite duos, one from EU and NA, have a chance here to really sit, make a big deal and push their way up the standings. Really showing you that, hey, there's a limited number of opportunities, you have to make the best of it. I told you, Fastroki and company might be coming on over, and look at this. They're here to play upset.
Cammy and Seti, they might have dealt with Stain and Datus at the beginning, but they still have plenty of work cut out for them. For Strokey, just slightly above Cammy for the time being. Cammy, though, doing a good job utilizing these builds. Some Brick gonna be going out. Not enough yet for Strokey to feel comfortable. But it's Cammy with that left side peek, a bit tough to try and work with.
Seti watching the side angle here, seeing if he can take advantage of any opening, cracking the armor here. But for Strokey, putting the pressure on. Starting to run low on ammunition here, so he will have to be careful or make a decision here to full commit. Instead, gets punished first, cutting right through the over shields and the additional shield pot there, so he's gonna have to dig into it. Meanwhile, Kylie with the side angle, suppressed pistol, putting in good work here. We like the angles, but Seti's clapping back. Ooh, another great angle. Cammy really hitting the tags when it matters right now.
That's tough for Kylie as well. I mean, he's really got to get up close and personal. That suppressed pistol going to be difficult to work with in comparison to that sharp tooth. But Cammy, Seti, they are not willing to budge. They are staying as close to each other as possible because they also want to make sure they stay in contention of this capture point, not trying to let it go for free towards Kylie and for Strokey. It seems for the time being, they have successfully managed to push them off entirely. So it does look as though Cammy and Seti are going to buy themselves just enough time, and the capture point will be in their favor.
Meanwhile, Pink and Vico lurking nearby. They're contesting half of the split off of Acorn and Cold. But now, on the other side, Slappy Shores, Tayson, and Merstache. Here's the team that can truly take home the grand finals if they can make it there. Definitely a pick, indeed.
What a tower base, though, for Tayson. I mean, you got a couple of med miss waiting, ample amounts of shield potions, including a couple of big shield potions. So for Tayson, his sole responsibility for the time being is just to establish as much surge damage control as possible. And it looks as though the Limpy tells a different story, or actually a same story if you're Pars and Baka. Because for the time being, Teeny at least, no longer in the lobby.
Yeah, Pars and Baka turned online now and get the finish onto Teeny. There it is. So the full finish onto Misha and Teeny, both sent back to the lobby. Meanwhile, there is another duo lurking from above, Chubbs and Bryce, looking on down, trying to see what they can do to influence this exchange here. Can they find tags to go ahead and put themselves in a successful position? So far, so good, but these are absolutely important exchanges here. And listen, Pars and Baka, man, you got to give them some respect, dude. When it comes down to performing, you would have thought at the Invitational, hey, look, we don't have LAN experience. What's going to happen? Nope. They are here showing that they didn't need it. And they're even better than the last time we saw them.
Don't really need LAN experience if you can just trust your instincts as a player. And that seems to be exactly the mentality here for Pars. Just breaking through Teeny's builds. Teeny, absolutely no health to work with in that circumstance. But it's a nice establishing point there, because now that is 2 games back-to-back. That's going to start to pose a real issue here, because again, Monster, it's only 5 games, and for Misha and Teeny to be knocked so early on, they've got some ground to really make up for at this point.
A lot of ground to make up. Recover to be made here, but Acorn, Cole looking good so far. Vibing out here, trying to see if he can farm some surge in a distance. Meanwhile, Ritual will find a knock onto Edgy. And Ritual, what a surprise from them. I did not expect them to have such standout performances, especially with such a strong game one, and then an even better start to their game 2 so far. Here's Jaemon and Yuma. Very, very interesting duo right here.
Just kind of floating around for the time being. Just waiting to determine which direction. It seems as though they're just gonna build a little bit further into this jungle biome. And Yuma, Neymon, doesn't seem as though they have any other incentive for the time being as far as aggression is concerned, but might be having to pick things up a little bit, as again, we did see some teams struggling a bit in game number 1 as far as that surge damage threshold was concerned.
Yeah, for Strokey and Kylie, definitely not gonna have a problem with that right now. One of the few teams with an elimination right now. Already making a move deep into the outskirts here as they see there's a potential cache left behind. So just trying to secure what they can. Brick needed, metal needed, so
Very important for them to get their rotation loop route down snappy here, as the zone will be pushing in pretty quickly. On the other side, Pink and Vico from the Frenzy Farms now up to a high ground position here. Opting to go for trades, and oh, what a dirty angle there for Vico. Those are extremely important onto teams inside the Mega City.
But again, we see some of the action that's been unfolding here so far, but we've got Levin to give us even more.
Thank you very much, Taco. Look, we just saw Pink and Vika there on the screen. We've seen Acorn and Cold in this game as well. Coming into this game, both these teams in the top 10. If you know anything about me, I like to see action. I like to see fighting. And I thought these two were going to be fighting. And even Pink himself said, look, we might have to fight them. There's not enough loot in this area for both of us to share. But they're somehow making it work. So far in game one, both of them, they're making things so scrappy. Every single bit of loot they can get, they're going for. And somehow they're in the top 10. If they can continue, I expect both of these teams to qual. But when it comes time to grand finals, I don't expect them to be friendly anymore. I'm thinking if they can both qualify, that's when we're going to start to see some action for them.
That's an excellent point. It's one thing to make your way through a top 25 being the the hurdle to overcome. That's a pretty low barrier for some of these top tier competitors. But when you get to finals, you know it's gonna be a lot harder now, as number one is all that matters for the best of the best.
That's got to be every duo for themselves at that point, and Pink especially.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to consider what he even mentioned in one of the pre-show videos that we saw. Cap Metal is so important for him, and you have to expect that at his split drop, he is not trying to share by any means with anyone else.
I'll take a look at this. Zagu and Peppo actually have finally found themselves in elimination. Last game taken out a lot earlier than they would have liked, so this is their chance to go ahead and bounce back, put some numbers on the board. And they have a very, very interesting strategy. They're actually healing Striker and getting as much surge as possible. What a unique position to be in, but also you have to be so smart to think like this. This is how, again, ahead Zagu and Peppo are.
But imagine being Striker, your fate completely decided, just watching yourself benefit some of your competitors to the utmost extent.
And if you're a Fortnite like super nerd like I am, that right there, that was
genius.
That was so genius.
Worthy, meanwhile, he's got to get a different sort of strategy going. Decent span out here. Will get some nice shots onto Mustache. Actually tags him up all the way into his white HP, but still holding strong here. Worthy doesn't seem all that excited to give up this positioning that he's established just yet, and for good reason. It's a pretty nice aerial view.
Here's Gyros and Shari now. Great position here. Zone's already starting to pull more center than the last game, so this will be a very much different terrain than what we just saw in the last game. That's going to be probably a warm welcome for these Western teams that don't seem to get very lucky often. But as we know it, anything can, of course, happen here.
It's got to be so scary sliding over the ice just then. You're just hoping that no one's going to be able to catch sight of you, but Cooper, not sure he's even fully aware of the fact that Zagu and Peppo are based just a little bit more towards the interior of this jungle trench. Miro following suit behind Cooper. These teams trying to make sure they don't stray too far from each other, but still wanting to make sure of the fact that they are collecting the resources they need. Because we saw just how congested that last game was, especially with the way that zone was pulling so viciously over the water. So much of these teams were just getting trapped inside of that mid-layer territory.
Meanwhile, the Rift Island is going to start to formulate here, jumping just outside of Reet and Ritual's perspectives there. They can be the first to take a stab at it, and if they secure this, I mean, surely top 25 is locked in the bag, as they were in the 76-point threshold range of total points. So they can get a big 15 here with the Elans and some placement. They will be in the top 25. It could be done and dusted here, as there are only 5 games, but no, instead they say, hey, look, let's go for the full Rift, get straight to the top. No zipline for us. I don't know which was riskier, but it works out at the end there.
able to juke out some of those distant shots in the air, and being the first ones to actually touch down on Rift Island does mean that they'll be the first to try and make use of those bonus objective points with the Capture Island point. But again, in Ritual, I mean, who did we see last game on the Rift Island? It was Thomas and Malabuka. Well, guess what? They got eliminated super early by Kanata and Adrian, so now it doesn't seem as though there's anyone posing too much of a threat. But Baka and Pars, they've been fighting for as long as the game has started, it seems.
Yeah, it's still Chubb's team too. Chubbs was looking at them before. It seems like he's given them a problem on